It was one of the most disturbing sights he had ever witnessed. When he first saw it, he couldn't help but feel a chill go down his spine and wonder what that building could be. He had lived in that house for years, but he had never seen it before. He was about to discover the eerie secret the house had been concealing for centuries. Man uncovers building made of bones and teeth in his garden. Jonathan Bostock, a 62-year-old granddad from Birmingham, England, recently went through one of the biggest scares of his life. He could have never suspected that such a sinister object could be hidden in his own home. Unbeknownst to him, the garden of the house, where he had been living for years, concealed a disturbing yet weirdly beautiful building with a mysterious past. It all started after Jonathan received a phone call. He was trying to sell his house to move somewhere else. Soon enough, someone interested in the house called him, and the two of them closed the deal right then. This wasn't particularly surprising, all things considered. The house was a bargain. It was beautiful and spacious, just 1 mile away from Birmingham city center, and had a huge garden. And that wasn't all. After 25 years of living there, Jonathan just felt like this house represented a chapter of his life that had naturally arrived at its end. All he wanted was to sell it as soon as possible. As much as he liked the house, and despite all the good memories he would keep from his time there, it was getting harder and harder to properly take care of the garden at his 62 years of age. Little did he know that the garden still had one last surprise for him. It all began when Jonathan was pruning ivy and tidying up the garden, setting everything up for its new owner. Even though the new owner didn't intend to move in any earlier than 3 months forward, Jonathan knew that preparing the house for him would be hard work. So he decided to go to work with it as soon as possible so he didn't have any unexpected problems later down the road. And that's when he found it. Jonathan had always known that somewhere in the back of the garden, there was some sort of structure or building. However, it was covered in ivy, and he had never paid much mind to it until now. But now, it was finally time for him to discover what it was. And as it turned out, it was something way uncannier than what he could have ever imagined. It was a bit of the garden we left to run wild, and there is wildlife like badgers down there. It was left to nature until now, he has told the press about his discovery. We have been in the property for 25 years, but the garden had become a bit overgrown, and it was covered in ivy. I started to do some clearing and removed the ivy from it to uncover it. Then one thing led to another. I realized it was something I had to showcase. As he removed more and more ivy branches, he could see more clearly the composition of the structure. A significant proportion of the building seemed to be made out of a conglomerate of oyster shells, but that wasn't all. Taking a closer glance, Jonathan discovered with horror that teeth and bones were equally abundant in the structure's fabric. What the heck was that? After removing all the ivy, he could observe the structure in its entirety. It seemed like a big folly, with no particular purpose other than a decorative one. However, the fact that it was made of bones and teeth was extraordinarily creepy. Could they be human? What could be the story behind that macabre building? Who made it and why? I didn't really know what it was, so I got my daughter-in-law to take some photos, which we put on social media, Jonathan recounted to the press. All of a sudden, we could see the numbers going up, and they were generating a lot of interest. Then we had a couple of people come up to the house, one from the National Trust and a local historian. Could they help clarify the building's origin? As soon as they looked at it, I knew it was something special because they were gobsmacked. They said in all their years visiting historic gardens in Birmingham, they had never seen anything like it. They were amazed how well preserved it was on the outside and that some of the bricks looked Georgian, although the wood bits inside have been lost to time. They estimate it is from the mid-1700s, but they need to do more research. But what about the teeth and bones? It seems to be constructed from oyster shells and bones and teeth from cows and sheep. They used whatever was to hand from local slaughterhouses and butchers. Quite often, it was sheep bones and sometimes cows. The teeth could be from cows, but the bigger ones are probably sheep, said one of the experts. But that's not all there is to the mysterious building. There's still a lot more to uncover. Our next steps will be to look at old maps, the house that was on the site before the current owner, and find out about the family. Such shell work could have been done as a hobby project for the ladies of the house. It's obviously a shell house as opposed to a grotto, because grottos tend to be more subterranean. It's absolutely gorgeous inside. A lot of the teeth are still intact, and the bones are just pristine. But what was it used for? According to Jonathan, the experts are still researching to try to find out what it was for. They're saying, like other follies, it is quite likely it was a secluded area to go down to relax, and maybe the lady of the manor would go down there for a bit of peace and quiet. So there is a health and well-being element to it, which is very timely these days, and people do seem relaxed in this sort of space. One may wonder whether Jonathan still wants to sell the house after this discovery. This is what he said: "The house is up for sale, and an offer is in, but I'm a man of my word. I must admit it's hard to leave it because we are attached to the property, but the folly is going to a good home, and the new owners will look after it, I'm sure. It's beautiful. Everyone loves discovering something that has been lost, and this has been lost for quite a while," concludes one of the researchers. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.